Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel. Unfortunately, we opened today's video with a really sad news, a shocking news. This morning, opening all the papers, it was reported first by Marca, Spanish paper, that Diogo Jota, Liverpool midfielder, passed away this night together with his brother in a car accident. 28 years old, a player that won the Premier League, that just won the Nations League with Portugal, that just got married like 2 weeks ago. It's so sad. It's really sad. Guys, as I told you always, and I want to repeat it today, football is the most important thing of the non-important thing. Rest in peace, condolences to him, to his entire family, and to the world of football. These are the news that you never want to open the channel with. But we are here to speak about football, to bring some joy to the people that are watching. So let's open. Again, ciao Juventini of the world. My name is Giuseppe. Welcome back on the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Take care of your families, guys. Take care of your families, your friends, and enjoy the day. Enjoy every single day. Enjoy football. That is not important, but it is actually creating a community so that we are all together. What will we speak about in today's video? We'll speak about Jadon Sancho. Attenzione, Jadon Sancho that has been spoken about yesterday a lot. So Jadon Sancho in talks with Juventus could be the next name after Jonathan David. Jonathan David that should arrive tomorrow morning, a full Jonathan David day with medicals in the morning after arriving in La Continassa. And then the name black on white, the signature black on white on the contract that will see Jonathan David 5 years together with Juve. And then we need to speak about the midfielder idea, Hjulmand, to reinforce and to actually unlock Kefren Turam. So a lot of things that we need to speak about, like also today, a new tournament that is starting at least for the Azzurri, because Azzurre, the national team of women Italy, because it already started yesterday, Euro 2025. Yesterday it started already. Today we will see Italy playing against Belgium for their very first game. It's tough, huh? It's tough to make that transition between that sad news, Diogo Jota, and the rest, because we have a lot of things to speak about. So let's try to find a bit of animo. And that's why, guys, if you were not able to follow, because there is a lot of football never stops, huh? With all the news of the Mercato, with the Club World Cup, that it's not over. It's over for you, but not for the rest of the competition, that I will continue to follow. Pay attention for Saturday, because there might be a big, huge surprise. Guys, if you want to be up to date with everything, also with the Women Euro, with Italy, download OneFootball. It's totally for free. You can find the link into the description. If you are too lazy to click, you have also the QR code there on top of the screen. You just make a picture of it and then you will be redirected. It's totally for free. You have the scores, you have the news, you have everything that you need to know here into the description link. Guys, do it because it's totally for free, because now we start with Corriere dello Sport is opening. Jonathan David is Juve. It's Juve. He will sign for 5 years, and then pay attention because Sancho is getting closer and closer and closer. Let's speak first about Jonathan David. When will he arrive? Tomorrow. So not today as early predicted, but tomorrow morning. He could arrive maybe in Caselle towards 11, 12, so in late morning, and then immediately, and you know how it goes, immediately going to La Continassa, a visit of the infrastructure, before going, to the J Medical, doing the test, and then the signatures later today. The first signature from Juve, the first signing from Juve, I'm extremely happy because we needed it to immediately put the Club World Cup aside and projecting ourselves in a new season 25-26, that Juventus, they want to do big things. We heard it about Scanavino, I will repeat it. The objective is to compete for the Scudetto with, at the moment, the team that we have, we are not able to. So some changes will happen in the team. We need some. So Jonathan David, the first name, we already spoke about it yesterday. We already did a live speaking about him yesterday. La Juventus, la signora, fa gol. Juventus is creating goals, is scoring, because not only Jonathan David, but Gazzetta dello Sport is reporting us that we are not giving up on Victor Osimhen. David is a bianconero, but it's not over. Now we are hunting, we are chasing for Osimhen. For me, it's a tough one. I will repeat it. The best player on the market. If you are able to bring Osimhen at Juve, I can tell you that the enthusiasm level will go extremely high. Not only the enthusiasm level, but also the impact that the Nigerian player will have on Juve, on Serie A, because I can guarantee you that that's the guy that will score a lot of goals immediately. Whoever is playing with him, around him, next to him, that's the guy that guarantees you a lot of goals. But then if you tell me between 75 and 90 million euro that you need to give to Napoli on a player that has one more year of contract, a player that will go to AFCON, don't forget about that, a player that not always has shown stability in terms of character, because if it turns out that he wants to be negative, it can be a really tough one to manage, and we see what is happening with Napoli. Guys, I tell you that I prefer to keep that money and spend in other roles, because I told you yesterday 5-6 players that we have at the moment are really worth playing at Juve at top level, competing for different competition. That means that we need to reinforce ourselves. So Juve, they want to dream big. They really want to dream big there offensively, changing, doing a revolution in attack. Out Vlahovic, out Milik. Question mark about KOLO MUANI, but having that striker lineup of Jonathan David and Victor Osimhen would be a beautiful one. They don't forget about KOLO MUANI, because KOLO MUANI is still an objective of Juve in case they cannot go for Osimhen, if they understand that they have opportunities elsewhere. So KOLO MUANI is another player that can possibly be extended at Juve. Juventus is trying to speak with Paris Saint-Germain to have an extension of a loan with an option to buy, while Paris Saint-Germain is actually really going to, okay, we can loan the player, but obligation to buy, not option to buy. And that's why Juventus is at the moment waiting to understand. And who will be the decisive man there? It is Dusan Vlahovic. Dusan Vlahovic, that yesterday didn't appreciate that much the voices from Fabrizio Romano, from Romeo Agresti, from the papers that were saying, here we go for Jonathan David. And he wanted to repeat that he is at the moment the number 9 of Juve through some stories on Instagram. The first one with the number 9, so that everyone is able to understand it, and then also with a word in Serbian which means 9. So he wanted to repeat it. What are the voices that are arriving from La Continassa? That they are not surprised. They are childish reaction, but that it will not change the Juventus strategy. He is a player that is on the market. They will try to find a solution for him, knowing, of course, that the one that is deciding is Dusan Vlahovic. Yesterday also heard from Matteo Moretto on YouTube that Juventus could possibly think about the solution, extending one more year so that you are able to loan him out, cash in a bit for the loan, reducing the salary because it will be paid partially by the club that is actually taking Dusan Vlahovic for a year, actually putting also there in an open window so that he's able to do what he was doing at Fiorentina and not what he was doing at Juve. I don't believe in that solution. I hope that the solution doesn't go through, or really as a last thing that you can do on the 31st of August. But otherwise, no. Because I think that Dusan Vlahovic chapter at Juve is over. This is how Juventus feels. This is how the majority of Juventini are feeling. Even Dusan Vlahovic understood it. Let's see what will happen there, because he will be decisive in telling us which other striker Juventus can go for. Can we go for KOLO MUANI? Can we go for Osimhen? Can we go for a name that at the moment we didn't hear about? So let's see. I hope that the striker situation will be solved extremely fast, because we know it. In 3 weeks, about 3 weeks, we start back first in La Continassa before traveling to Herzogenaurach in Germany to continue the preparation of the new season. That will be shorter, that preparation, than other clubs that didn't participate to the Club World Cup. Sbarca David is arriving tomorrow, we already told you, and now all in on Sancho is the title of Tuttosport. Sancho, Juventus is doing serious business there. They are going forward and they are doing steps ahead to close quite soon Jadon Sancho. Why? Because if we are looking back at 10 days ago, last week, when I was in USA, I was nearly telling you that Sancho was a done deal. At least the journalists were telling us that. What blocked there? That actually the request of Manchester United, the request of Jadon Sancho were a bit higher than initially what Juventus was thinking about. From the latest news, well, there were again contacts in recent days. They are speaking about last weekend between the Bianconeri, the Red Devils, and the players' entourage. And you know it, when you are able to speak and with the club and with the player, it means that there are green light from somewhere. Maybe even both club and player are giving green light. What I heard is that Manchester United would even be available to drop the request to 20 million euro, where the player is also looking at reducing his salary, going towards a 5.5 with some bonuses there. So everyone wants actually to make that deal go through. Jadon Sancho at Juventus, I tell you, if you're able to bring me the Englishman from 25 million euro, it's something that you need to do on. I'm not really keen to do some bets on Juventus season 25-26 in terms of players. I'm not. But on the other side, if you can do one bet, well, that's the player that was really close to go to Juve already last season. Do you remember we spoke an entire summer about Jadon to Juve? At the end, it didn't happen. He went to Chelsea with half and half results. Chelsea that didn't actually took him because they had an option to buy. They didn't do it. They refused to do it. So Jadon Sancho don't want to stay in Premier League after Chelsea, after Manchester United. He wants to try another league where actually he did much better, like for example in Bundesliga with Dortmund. And Juventus could be the possible destination for him. I tell you, that's a bet that I would take, because if worst case scenario is not working, a player that you signed for 25 million euro will still have at his age 25 years a Mercato where you are not losing a lot, because you can still resell him for 15, 13, 14 million euro to another club, maybe going back to Premier League or maybe going to Bundesliga. So it's a player that I would bet on. Then of course you need to understand how else we can make that deal happen. Can it happen with a player swap? That I tell you already will be not a direct swap, but first you close Sancho and then you continue talk for some players. Juventus offered Manchester United. Until yesterday, I was believing that Manchester United was interested, but the salary was high. Today, I heard that they are not even that much interested in Dusan Vlahovic, so that's something that you need to forget about. But a player that they could possibly continue to talk about is Douglas Luiz. After Sancho would be a done deal to Juve. Douglas Luiz to Manchester United could be, according to me, a good one. Why? Because Douglas Luiz, with all the quality that he has and that we already saw, it's a player that unfortunately was not able to show them at Juve. And for him, the journey is already over. For Juve, the journey is over, because we are already looking at other types of midfielders. Then, Conceição, you will tell me, Beppe, what about Conceição? Well, Gazzetta dello Sport is telling us that Conceição is actually the priority for Juve, but not at the figures at the 30 million euro clause. So Juventus is trying to decrease that, which at Porto they don't want to hear about. Look, if Juventus is able to go for Sancho, it's Juventus that will be extremely strong in continuing to negotiate with Porto for Conceição, saying, look, we have already our player, it's Sancho. We want to continue with Conceição. If you decrease, we can even talk about it. If these are the requests that you have, 8 million for the loan that we already paid, plus 30 million euro for the close, we forget about it. So there is still the possibility to see and Conceição and Sancho there. So who will pay the consequences of it? It's a Nico Gonzalez. Nico Gonzalez that understood, unfortunately, that the journey at Juve could already be over, because unofficially he's already on the market. We saw it clearly at the Club World Cup that he was not a first choice by Igor Tudor. And then another player that is there on the front pages since yesterday, 2 days ago, is the name of Hjulmand. Hjulmand, Danish player that is playing at Sporting, again in Portugal. A player that impressed a lot in Portugal after his 2 seasons. A player that already received the captain band for leadership, for charisma, but especially for his tactical intelligence. A player that could possibly really reinforce that midfield of Juve. Does that mean that we will go towards a 3-5-2? Does that mean that we go with a 3-4-2-1 and we continue with that one? Does that mean that we go with 3 midfielders, 2 midfielders? I don't know. But a tactical player, intelligent player that could cover a Kefren Turam that sometimes is limiting himself in his run forward. So Hjulmand could be one. 40 million euro is what Tuttosport is telling us is the request of Sporting. I heard that Sporting is even asking towards the 50 million, more than the 40 million euro. For 50 million euro, forget about it. Then if Juve is able to stop the contract, or at least to sell Douglas Luiz, they could potentially go with 40-ish million for the Danish player that already has experience with Lecce in Serie A. A player of 26 years old, so it's more or less the same age. 1 year younger than Douglas Luiz, but a total different type of player. Muscles in the midfield to actually unleash the creativity up front. Renewals of contract, today a lot of news. Yesterday, the news came from Nico Schira telling us that we want to extend even 1 more year the contract of Andrea Cambiaso. That doesn't change a lot because he already has a contract until 2029, but what is the objective of that? To say to the guy, we forget about everything that happened in season 24-25, especially from the injury on, because we trust you. We believe that you are one of the masterpiece of that Juventus, one of the players that is worth being a starter at Juve, because we know your level. You already showed it in 1.5 season, and even if in the last 6 months you were not Cambiaso anymore, we believe in you and we want to continue with you. So would be a beautiful testimony of trust. Then of course it will be Andrea Cambiaso that needs to go back to the Andrea that we know. Other extensions, Savona is already a done deal. Gatti should be announced in the next few days. Yildiz is extremely close with a huge big increasement in terms of salary. And then pay attention to McKennie, because it's already 1 month, if not 2 months, that I tell you pay attention to Weston McKennie, because I am not 100% sure that he will be the player that will still be at Juve. And I could potentially understand it, because it's not the first time that there are these discussions in the middle of the summer. At a certain moment, American boy could say, ragazzi, if every year we need to discuss, if every year I need to prove myself, to show myself, at a certain moment, or you trust or you don't trust me. So it could be a stop. And at the moment, there is a stop for the renewal contract of Weston McKennie, even if we continue with the other one. So pay attention, because not sure that Weston McKennie will be in the roster of Juve 25-26. Then you will tell me, Beppe, but we buy. Who are we selling? How are we cashing in? Well, pay attention, because even if with Nottingham Forest it didn't go through for 2 players, well, these 2 players are still on the market, starting with Timothy Weah, that could go to Marseille. It's true that there is some offer from Leeds. There are some other clubs like Everton that are on the player, but the player would love to go back in France. You remember that he was at Lille back in the time before coming to Juve. Well, l'Olympique de Marseille is really starting to build a team that could do something in Champions League. Well, they pointed their eyes on Timothy Weah that would not say no. What is the value of the player? 15 million euro at least. This is what we hear around. And then another player that could leave. There is some interest now, again, from Premier League, not from Nottingham, but from Fulham. It is Samuel Mbangula. That is not really in the plans of Tudor, not really in the plans of Juve, also because it's a player that we know. It comes from the youth academy. And if Juventus is selling him, it's all in terms of profit. So it's a profit, all profit, what you are able to sell. Hopefully more than what we heard when he was linked to Nottingham Forest. I will hope that if we sell the player, it's for 15, if not more. Guys, that was it with a lot of news today. We know it, and Mercato is crazy, and today we see it. I just received news about the idea of a loan for Vasilije Adzic. Genoa and Sassuolo in Serie A, Palermo in Serie B are the clubs interested on the player. I would love to see him in Serie A. Anyway, we'll speak about that later, because I just received that news. Ragazzi, if you didn't yet, please put a maximum of like. Don't forget to subscribe. Grazie, forza, Juve.